Hi, I'm Alex. I make things. So if you were like me a few months ago, you were sitting there watching the Switch 1 and Switch 2 directs, right? You're enjoying the new game announcements, just drinking in that hype, understanding that Sakurai is a mad genius and we're finally getting Peak back.
They're finally doing a new Kirby Air Raid.
Oh my god, Team Racing can suck my dick!
And then you saw the trailer for Donkey Kong Bananza, a very competent looking platformer that I think has Game of the Year potential. And if you're like me, you're sitting there in a call with your friends and you're realizing that Nintendo's not gonna make a cool custom controller for this game. And that means I'm going to have to. For those of you just checking in on gaming in recent years, hi, how are you? What's it like not knowing what 9/11 was? Nintendo used to be really good about making custom controller concepts for new games. And this isn't knocking the Joy-Con 2s, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons, Joy-Con 2s, and their mouse mode. But Nintendo controllers used to have a lot of unique concepts. We had things like Gun 2, Mat, Slab, Laptop, iPad, Retina Remover, and others. And with Donkey Kong, there was no exception. The DK Bongos, a GameCube controller for one of the weirder platformers Nintendo's ever made, as well as a 2-game rhythm game series with such wonderful songs as All-Star by Smash Mouth. But with Nintendo's latest failures, you know, the lack of a Cappy controller, or a Tri controller, or a controller shaped out of the body of a red Pikmin, it is left up to the player, up to me, to create a custom controller for Donkey Kong Bananza, and I'm going to do so using a fixture of the Donkey Kong game series. They've been in nearly every game. They start with a B, follow it up with an A, come on, say it with me now, barrel. If you said banana, I hate to break this to you, but there are more Donkey Kong games with barrels in them than bananas, with most games having both barrels and bananas, and in the case of Donkey Kong Jr. Math, neither barrels nor bananas, nor a game. Also, I tried to make a banana controller and it didn't work out too well. The thought process is simple. I just needed to create a controller that had all the functions of a Pro controller, but with as much barrel in them as I could. First bit of that is easy. We can swap out all the face buttons for a DK Bongos. That's 4 buttons, A, B, X, and Y. For the shoulder buttons, that'll be a little bit difficult because we're already making this to a scale of DK Bongos being buttons, so shoulder buttons and triggers I decided to do foot pedals for. For the D-pad and other miscellaneous buttons on the controller, I pulled out these old arcade buttons, sort of miscellaneous odds and ends electronics that I had lying around, and that just left the joysticks. Now, my initial thought process was to modify some DK Bongos into joysticks, but that would have taken a lot of doing and put a lot of risk at them breaking or not working. I needed to be able to do something that I could quickly and easily repeat if something messed up. So I decided to 3D print my own. I created these vaguely barrel-shaped designs that were approximately the same size as DK Bongos, and created these sort of lie-flat joysticks that could slide around in all of the 8 different directions that we needed. Now the problem with these is most joysticks use a series of 2 potentiometers to take in input and figure out which axes are being pushed in which directions, and with a lie-flat joystick, that's a bit more difficult. But with this challenge posed, I got to learn about something new that I now get to teach you guys a little bit about. We got to learn about Hall effect joysticks. And if I'm going to teach you about them, I'm going to need the whiteboard, so stay right there. Now, if you think you can see the faint drawings of this happening before, you can't. This isn't a second take. I didn't mess up, and I didn't say something that I shouldn't have. I got it right the first time, and this is the first take. Ignore everything you see on the whiteboard. So if you're like me and have just only ever heard of the Hall effect in TikTok videos where people are like, ah yes, Hall effect joysticks, they don't drift, and that's it, they just sort of move past that, you're probably wondering, what is the Hall effect? Well, I'll show you. I'm gonna have to draw this, so we're gonna fast forward to the point where I have it drawn. So inside a Hall effect sensor, there is a sort of electrical piece. I'm bad at this. There's this electrical conductive material. Flowing from this end, the positive end, and this end, the negative end, there are electrons, and they're going boop, 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 boop across, right? They're moving across this electrically conductive material in to out. All right, that's fine. Well, the Hall effect states that when a magnetic field is put onto a magnetically conductive object where electricity is running through it, it sort of deflects this. So if a magnet was coming towards it, like this marker here, it would sort of deflect. And so instead of going straight across, they would follow the magnetic field pattern. So you'd have some going like this, and some going like this, and flowing out. And the closer the magnetic field gets to the thing, the stronger it becomes, the more those electrons, as they're passing along this conductive material, go further and further out away from where that magnetic field is being applied to the sensor. Now, Hall effect sensors have a third little point, normally on one of the opposing edges, like right here. So this is neither positive nor negative. This is our data pin. This is where it will track how much. So when the magnetic field is applied, normally they are trying to go the shortest distance. They are trying to come in and get out the closest one. And normally it's just this straight shot. But as the magnetic field is applied, once they start going down here far enough, they go, oh, that's closer. That's a bit closer, right? We can make this jump instead. The stronger the field, the more of these electrons that are traveling go, oh wait, we can go out here. So what you have then is a system where an amount of electricity is coming in, and the amount of magnetic energy that is being applied to this conductive material determines how much energy is being deflected out this data pin down here instead of out of the ground pin. Thus, you can measure how much magnetic force is being applied to this conductive material by how much electricity is flowing out of this pin comparative to this pin. And that is how Hall effect sensors work. I think. I Googled it. Now, you put all this together, you put all the pieces on a table, you strap them all to the table, you hook them up through a Raspberry Pi to unify their inputs, you take that Raspberry Pi output into a controller interpreter, you hook that up to a Switch 2, and boom, you have a Donkey Kong themed controller. It's what I would say if I did not exist to turn my own hobbies into new points of stress. That is not a controller, that is a bunch of things on a table. It needs to be more like a barrel. It needs to be more barrel. It needs to be all barrel. So I bought a barrel. First off, let's get this out of the way. Barrels are a lot more expensive than I thought. And the ones that I needed in the size that I needed are often filled with liquids, and not even good liquids like Dr. Pepper. So I found myself at my local hardware store, my local chain hardware store, the blue one, in their lawn and garden section, and found that they sell planters that are shaped kind of like barrels. And they cut them in half, which I realized was probably better for this whole project. So I bought 2 half-barrel planters. After purchasing them and then getting them shipped to my house, I realized that they were not as prepared as I needed them to be for this task, and thus we started the multi-day process of getting these into a workable condition. This means I needed to vacuum them to get all of the just miscellaneous dirt out. Wash them with both water and a white vinegar mixture to sort of, get the mold off, because they can grow mold if you don't do that. Then we had to sit them down to sand them. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Alex, you're only doing 1 sanding pass with only 1 grit. Wouldn't you want to do 2 with a finer grit to get it all perfect? And well, you see, this is just a silly little project, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. It's not small table.
Small table.
Properly sanded with 5 different grits.
Small table.
2 even layers of stain followed by a layer of sealant.
Small table.
The only time my dad has ever been proud of a thing I made.
Small table.
But with the barrel sanded, that means we just needed to put a layer of stain on it, just one, we're not going crazy here, and attempt to de-rust some of the barrel straps. I tried using this de-rusting putty, but it was burning my throat, even though I was wearing a mask and doing it outside, so we decided against that, and I just painted over the rust. It's fine, don't think about it. It's fine, don't think about it. I'm not thinking about it. You shouldn't either. And with the barrels finally all prepped, that just leaves us with redesigning the joysticks, putting all the holes into the barrel to hold all of the different buttons, joysticks, and bongo faces, putting in a small plank into it to hold the Raspberry Pi, the USB splitter, and the GameCube controller converter, and wire it all up. Then it's ready to stream Donkey Kong Bananza, baby! Now all we gotta do is just get it upstairs. So to get it up the rest of the flights of stairs, I took it apart. Brought it up one half at a time. Understand that combined, the whole thing weighs in the ballpark of 110 to 120 pounds, and it is barrel shaped. So, you know, not exactly an easy thing to go around with.
So, this is the barrel. And this is the streamer.
So, these are the barrels. They are connected to the computer by the one long USB cable that runs to the computer. So, that USB cable runs to this Raspberry Pi right here. This Raspberry Pi is currently functioning as a interpreter, because it is taking in all of these USB inputs. So it is taking in the USB inputs from this GameCube controller adapter for the DK Bongo pads. Shoulder buttons are these foot pedals here, USB foot pedals that are run into the USB. And then there is this thing right here, which is an arcade like joystick and button module, USB arcade joystick module, that is handling these buttons here. And last but not least, we have the joysticks. This rat's nest of cables going into this little breadboard right here, this is all of the wires needed to make these two joysticks work. This is the, and understand, this is like round 4. This is the best outcome. Here's my switch 2. You see the switch 2. Ooh. Yeah, it's right there. Plugged into it via USB is this little guy. This is a controller interpreter. This little guy functions by taking in other controller inputs and outputting them as a USB controller of any type. And I can make this thing pretend to be a Nintendo Switch compatible Pro controller. Time for the fun of remembering which bongo pad is why. There we go. There we go. Yeah, it's working. Hand slap, hand slap. Which one's is that? That bop? Yeah. All right. I'm sorry I'm not being too entertaining. It is taking a lot of mental fortitude to play the game with this controller. Okay, why is the fucking foot pedal not holding down when I hold down? I love how this is gonna be the thing that showcases how bad my code is. Why is it not maintaining that I'm holding down the button? Oh god, we're... Why is everything a hold? And also, why are my foot pedals not holding? You know what might work? Hold on. Hold on, I'm cooking. Hold on. I'm in the kitchen. Oh, I thought it was gonna be a Kremling. Was that it? Damn. Gyro aim. Nice. I don't know why one of these is drifting so much more than the other. I don't know what I did right with one and wrong with the other. So that's what he meant by if you fall off there, that's it for you. Come on, punch, 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 punch. There we go. Ah. So after the stream, let's do a little bit of a recap. The joysticks are bad. I'm proud of myself for learning what needed to be done to make them, but I'll be honest, they are kinda garbage. Okay. Stop drift. God damn it, it has Joy-Con drift. I made a Hall Effect controller, it has Joy-Con drift. It could be that it's the sensor's fault, or it could be the magnet's position's fault, or it could be the housing's fault. Who's to say? But the main point is that they drift. They drift a lot, and they don't really come back to center all that well. They're not great. And understand that this took me about 5 hours worth of troubleshooting. I stayed up the night before this stream to 3 a.m. trying to get this barrel working in a shirtless rage. I don't know when my shirt came off that night. All I know is that the next morning when I came into my office, my shirt was on the floor. Why are you detecting the buttons? Why are you detecting the fucking buttons? You're supposed to... You wouldn't dare. You would not dare. I can unmake you just as easier than I made you. You would... Yeah, that's right. From all this, what have we learned? I guess outside of, you know, how to put all this together, how all the different things hook together, how to run a Raspberry Pi in gadget mode, and all of the different things that I've come away from this with, learning Hall Effect joysticks. I guess the main takeaway here is that it is very hard to make ergonomic, competent, and functional controllers. And I should know because it was very hard to make this controller, and it's only one of those things. There are some improvements that I'm going to make on it in the future. I feel like I can turn it into something vaguely resembling functional and competent. Specifically some modifications to the joysticks to try and handle that drifting, moving the sensors a bit further apart from each other to give a better dead zone in the center. Also making sure that the foot pedals actually work for the shoulder buttons. I didn't realize that Donkey Kong Bananza really required so much holding down of the shoulder buttons, but knowing how hubris works for me, having a controller that you can't hold down the shoulder buttons or triggers and then having it play a game where that's necessary, that fits how hubris works for me. So, you know what? Fair. I feel like I missed something. Before I end the video, I need to say so. Oh yeah, Donkey Kong Bananza. It's actually a very fun game. Honestly, the 10 out of 10. Very, very solid. Even playing it on a controller that's probably the worst controller I've ever used in my life, it was actually still very fun. Highly recommended. One last thing that we did learn from this is that it is actually okay for you to not feel the need to 3D print your own barrel-shaped joysticks, and you can actually just instead use the joysticks that you have lying around your home instead of creating your own, like the hubristic Greek tragedy of a man that you are.